Hi, welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 178 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Katie, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Grace and EJ.
Hello there.
Hello.
Today, we'll be talking about the 911 Season 9 finale, 918, which is titled Hearts and Flowers. There is so much to talk about in this episode, so we're just gonna get right to it.
Can't believe we're at the season finale already.
I know.
It's wild. We're already here.
So we start off with this ambulance scene, racing to get the hospital, and Eddie's like saying she's losing a lot of blood, and Hen's just like keep packing. And like, okay, so I had very strong intuition with the scene that it wasn't Athena, like they're making us think, because it was just like there was a lot of things that played into that, but it was just like too good to be like, oh, we're just getting right to it.
Right.
Not like they haven't done stuff like that before, but like, yeah.
It just seemed
they
very
picked up
quick. And
it was for the drama of the problem.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Which also, when I watch those, I don't really think about it much. So I wasn't really thinking. And then it wasn't until I like saw this as like a sneak peek or whatever that I was just like, okay, that's like. And also they were very obviously trying not to show too much for the illusion.
Right. And it also made more sense why Harry was so surprised.
Yes.
Also, I was wondering, I was like, I think I was confused when we talked about the promo last week about how the 118 had anything to do with this. I was like, how? So yeah, it made sense.
And like they wouldn't get there that fast. You know what I mean?
Right.
Of course, we're also seeing the 118, the truck getting there at the same time. Like they're also, it was just like the way they're acting in the truck is like very much like, they was so, like, not to say it was casual, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. It was just like, well, they wouldn't be acting like this if they were bringing Athena to the hospital.
Right.
So of course they get there and like they're bringing their victim there as Athena is being brought in there, and of course this like leads to Harry like, you know, yelling and be like, oh, that's my mom, and like freaking out as Buck and Eddie are holding him back. And I did like how they played this. Like it was very good.
I did think it was really funny how they had like the whole dramatization of the ambulance ride over, but like once they got to the hospital they kind of had all the time in the world.
Yeah, literally. So then we get 30 hours earlier, and it's like this scene with Nikolai and his son, and then like Ben Hooks, and like, you know, Nikolai is like suspicious of like, because Athena's been looking into his businesses, and like Hooks is trying to like downplay, being like, oh, it's nothing, and blah blah blah, and it's just like, you know, you see the threats there. And then we get to the current. This is when Captain Maynard is like wanting to know what happened, and Hooks is just like, well, can we do this later because I want to check on Athena's condition. And I'm just like, yeah, no you don't, liar.
And it was interesting because like Maynard was not having it. I don't know if she was suspicious of him yet. She was not. I think thought that's what I thought.
I got the vibe too that she felt there was something she
I think
was
it's because it's because she knew Athena wouldn't miss. Like she knew the story didn't add up. Yeah, I don't know. She was definitely suspicious, and she was not entertaining his shit.
Yeah, she could have just not been full on suspicious, but she was definitely seeing like irregularities in like the story and just being like, well, this doesn't like add up or something. So she was definitely getting something from this. And I love Maynard being like, her condition is that she was shot in the chest, so unless you have a medical degree I don't know about, you need to walk me through this. So he walks her through this complete like lie that he's pulling out of his ass, essentially claiming that basically Athena missed. Nikolai shot at her, she shot at him, but she apparently missed and hit some books or something. And Maynard basically says, yeah, that's not like her. Like, and I'm just like, the whole like lies that are happening here, I'm just like, yeah, liar.
I was yelling some pretty nasty words to the TV, I'll say that. I was like, you lying.
only thing that came to my head was liar. Lie told you that.
He's liar told you.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have heated rivalry on the brain or anything, do we?
You know I do 24/7, so that's why this is coming out so much.
Right.
You get it. But anyways, yeah, we had that, and then we have like everyone's in the hospital, and Chim is like talking to Maddie on the phone, and he was like saying how Athena has lost a lot of blood, and the doctors say that she has decompensated by the time she got to the ER. And Maddie asks how everyone is holding up, and Chim says how you'd expect, and says that he doesn't know what to say to them. And Maddie says there's no right thing to say in this situation, which is true. This is a tough one, and it's so hard. And this is like hair, like obviously this is mom, but I'm just saying, just in generally speaking, this is like his first one as a first responder having to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one.
Well, not only that, like he's not just comforting the crew because they're friend. It's definitely Harry, it's Athena, and stuff they don't prepare you for when you go through tests. You rank up a lot of times. So
right, that too.
Yeah, and I think there was also the lingering bit of they had also lost Bobby, who was Athena's husband.
Right.
So it was like, oh no, are we going through this again? And like it would have been different because it was Athena, but like not that much, especially with her best friend and her son being on the crew.
Right. Sure. And it's just like everyone's struggling, but Eddie's struggling obviously too because of the connection with the migrants too, which we sort of get a little bit later him talking about.
Well, I think it kind of hints back to what they talked about in the previous episode too, with how when Hen had come to him and that there might be hope because he was upset about Theo losing his parents and people getting displaced and all that. Like
right, yeah, for sure. And Athena is having like essentially a coma dream, and she sees McCluskey, and I know a lot of people were hoping to see Bobby, but like I knew it was a complete long shot, and it was basically slim to nothing for that to happen.
Yeah, I did think McCluskey was a surprise.
Yeah, for sure.
And I definitely would have preferred Bobby, even though I did like what happened with McCluskey overall. I wonder if it was a thing of they couldn't get Peter back.
Yeah,
I think everything I know was basically them going the route they did with Bobby because they were trying to basically cut budget cuts and stuff like that. I don't think, knowing that, I don't think they would even approach it.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was the same kind of thing as... Well, I didn't think it was the same kind of thing as, like, what happened with Rockmond, because, like, that was a complete, like, irreconcilable differences for use of divorce talk. But I was like, I mean, they didn't not fire him, they didn't really fire him. I wasn't sure if they could bring him back.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been very hard to... I don't know if they would. I don't know, it just there's so many things that it brings up doing it. So I was just like, I got so many personal comments of people being like, oh my god, I wonder if Bobby will be there when she's like having a dream or something, and I was just like, I'm not gonna hold my breath, I think is what I replied to people.
Funny enough, I wasn't even thinking about there ever being a dream until like the literal second that it happened. I was like, oh my gosh, will it be Bobby? And I was like, oh.
I wasn't even thinking about it until people commented it to me, and I was just like, yeah,
I kind of figured we'd be a little busy with other things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, she's in surgery, and we kind of have Nikolai's son. I believe his name is Anatoly. I refer to him just for easy things as his son. It's easier. So he's at Hook's house, and he threatens him, and he's saying how he can't be bothered with 2 dead cops right now, and he's just going to go handle things. And I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna end up well. This is just not good. And So obviously things are tense when we go back to the hospital. You know, we have this guy going up to the nurse's station, basically saying how his to one of the nurses saying how his daughter has apparently been in surgery for hours, and he's yelling at the nurse, but like they're like she's still in surgery, like we don't have any updates and that kind of thing. And then he sits down, and Harry's just like saying to Buck, like, I guess we're not the only ones worrying, and Harry wonders what like they're there for, and Buck is like, oh, I'm guessing their child. He has seen that look before, and it's its own kind of helplessness. And Harry's like saying how I'm sorry about your friends to Buck, and says I feel sorry for like Theo, and Buck thanks him. And then Buck's like, well, why don't we go check out the vending machine? And Jim sits with Hen and tells her that she should go home, like she doesn't need this kind of stress, like flare up. And Hen's like, I would be more stressed not being here. And she's like, I'm fine. And then Eddie's like, oh, I really need coffee. And Chim's like, do you want company? And Eddie's like, no, I'm okay. Here we found the silver lining in all this. And Chim is like, oh, what's that? And Eddie says, the bastard that did all this is already dead. And I'm like, oh, what you don't know
about that.
About that, because the literal bastards essentially Son is sitting in the waiting room, hiding out, whatever. And yep, he's there, and it's just like, yeah, about that.
Yeah, what's really funny is about the like Theo and his parents' situation. I completely forgot about it. I'll be so real with you guys. I completely, in my defense, it has been a really long week, but I completely forgot about it until they mentioned it literally here. I was like, oh, wait, I forgot.
You're like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
That was me with the sperm donor storyline to begin with. Yeah, I forgot about that. I thought it was really funny considering everything that happened last week. I was just in one ear, out the other, apparently.
Apparently. It's like we almost needed like a recap for even though it was only a week. I loved when they did the recap like before last week's episode, because I was just like, when has 9-1 ever done this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it was helpful.
It was, yeah. So then we kind of go back. Athena's in surgery. Took her off bypass, and we see Athena's talking to McCluskey in her like coma dream, and she's like she's realizing what happened, and it's just like her being like, I was shot, and it's like, yeah. And then we have like the waiting room. The parents of the daughter just want to see their daughter, and the dad's like, oh, it's been 3 hours, and Hen's like, oh, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but like she's trying to assure them and being like, actually no news is good news. And I feel for them, because then a nurse comes into the waiting room and says, oh, the family of like the Grant family, and it's just like, they were hoping this was their news, but then it wasn't. You could see their faces, and like, oh, that's the worst. But basically they find out that Athena's out of surgery. They can see her soon. She's in a medically induced coma, and they just see how things go, and like they'll be able to see her soon and stuff.
I love how May is there and she's like hanging on to Robbie, like she's there with Robbie.
I know.
Dude, they got there quickly.
They were so cute.
Yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of go, and Eddie praying. He like went to the chapel and is like praying, and I love this so much. Especially of all the things we've gotten with like his faith, and like he doesn't really necessarily know what to do, and I loved it. And then Eddie is having this conversation, because of course Nikolai's son is in the chapel. Why wouldn't he be? And he's like asking Eddie if he thinks that he hears him, and Eddie thinks he does, but honestly he doesn't know. And then Nikolai's son is just like, oh, I think he does. At least that's what I was always taught. And he mentions his father dying, and so then Eddie's like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And Eddie gets up to leave, and then just before he leaves, he gets a text finding out Athena made out of surgery, and like Eddie kind of says that, and then Eddie's like, oh, by the way, I'm like sorry about your dad. And this dude says, it's okay, he was a real bastard. And Eddie didn't even like get to finish like, praying and stuff. Like he didn't even get to finish that moment, and he was stabbed. And this is what I just like I knew it was coming because like I was just like, ah, God,
we saw enough hints coming that we're like,
yeah, okay, well, because they put it in the promo, but we didn't necessarily know if it was a stab wound or if it was a gunshot wound from the promo, because in the promo they said there was a gunman in the building.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I'm like, it's funny because like when you watch this and then you're thinking about the details we got before, it's so hard to differentiate what was when. I always have that problem. So yeah, Eddie was stabbed, and I was just like, of course. So then a nurse comes to get May to basically take her to Athena. And I love her asking Robbie to basically go with her. And Buck and Harry are on the roof. They've migrated up, I guess. And
so much for a vending machine.
Yeah, I know. They went from a vending machine to the roof. And then, like, this is when they find out that basically, like, Athena's out of surgery. And Harry's, like, saying how he thought, like, becoming a firefighter, like, becoming one of them, as he put it, would make him not feel so powerless. But it doesn't. And Buck says how it's because he's trained to help, but he can't, and all he can do now is be there, which is the hardest thing. And then, we see May going to see Athena, and then Eddie is like very much trying to get to the elevator. He's walking, he's getting blood all over the walls of this hospital. And then he's getting to the elevator, he's hitting the buttons, he gets in the elevator with a stab wound to his chest. And then, we see this guy is trying to get to Athena's room essentially, and like claiming that he has flowers or whatever. And there's just like, oh, well, you can't go back there. You can leave him here. And he's like making excuses of like whatever.
I was supposed to give him to him directly.
Yeah, like it's just like, that doesn't really work like that. Especially being the dad of the girl in surgery. Like, he comes up again to talk to the nurse. And then, of course, this guy sees that he has a gun. And so he's yelling, oh, he has a gun. And then he shoots him. And it's just like...
Which, like, actually, good. Like, I'm glad he managed to get that because he let everyone else know. He raised the alarm because that way people had a few seconds of a heads up.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I mean, like, good for you. Not just freaking out. Like,
yeah, it is good, but then it's like he gets shot, so it's just like, but there's...
I mean, he was gonna get shot one way or another.
Yeah.
True.
So at least, like, that's kind of... He saw it. The guy knew he saw it. And so, could have freaked out. Could have tried doing something else, but no. I know, it's not exactly, like, something major, but still, it turned the tide a little bit. Otherwise, he could have gotten more shots off. Which, like, Anatoly was very single-minded. Especially, we see this later. Like, he knew where he was going, and he wasn't trying to take major detours.
Right.
Which probably saved a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
Right. And, of course, he steals the nurse's badge to get through this door, and then the nurse, like, puts the hospital into lockdown, which gets, the elevator just, like, slams, like, stopped, and Chim is, like, telling everyone to get down, and Hen and Chim are, like, running to help this guy. And, of course, we see Eddie is not doing well in the elevator, and Chim is wondering, like, what happened, and the nurse explained that he asked for Athena, and then he shot this guy, and Chim is, like, running to the door, but the hospital is on lockdown, and the only LAPD can basically not make the doors feel locked. So, like, they can't get through, and, yeah, that's not good.
Which is a good...
It's a good thing. It is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But it's just like how fast this all happened.
Oh, it's incredibly frustrating because like they're stuck with limited supplies to help this guy, and he's got a major chest wound, and you've got like the other issues all over. Like we see later, like Anatoly going through like the wing that he gets into, and like there are people that are just sitting there and they have no protection.
Right.
Yeah, no, like he could have shot up the ICU ward if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Which is why I was like, I'm glad he was so single. Like he had a single goal. He was singly focused because a lot of people could have died. But it's like, it's a good thing, but also you kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I know that he, like, realistically, he basically just wanted to hurt Athena and anybody that was close to her or anybody that got in his way, which is exactly what happened. So,
Yeah.
then May's with Athena and so is Robbie. And then Robbie gets a call from Chim, like, pretty quickly. And Chim's, like, telling him that there's basically a man with a gun headed their way. He's looking for Athena and, like, they need to move her, but obviously she's on a ventilator. And it made me, like, a little uncomfortable that they had, like, all the patients' names, like, right outside the doors.
Yeah, I was saying that too to my roommate. I was like, that they don't normally do that. I'm like, in some hospitals, so you're lucky if you can get the date correct up on the wall.
Yeah, it just I feel like that's a huge, like, safety risk. And that just made me super uncomfortable. I was just like, I feel like that should be, obviously it should be more so, like, under lock a little bit more, because it was just like that is so, like, unsecured. Like, you don't know who's gonna be coming around, not even thinking about this situation.
Well, it's against HIPAA laws.
Yeah, that too. I was just like,
sorry, I missed what we were talking about. What in particular being unlocked?
The names listed for each patient outside of the room. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think that's for dramatic effect because, like, granted, I have not been that deep into most hospitals, but I have not seen that. They're usually on charts inside the room, so definitely a drama thing. But I get what you guys are saying now. I just missed the original, the first part of this. I was like, I have no idea what y'all are talking about.
Yeah, because even when you see, like, on medical shows when they have, like, the OR charts, they have, like, whatever the surgery is. They don't necessarily have the patient's name up there, and if they do, it's, like, abbreviated or something, but usually it's not. It's usually just whatever surgery it is. I'm just like, yeah, that just really caught my eye, and I was just like, okay, I obviously know it's, like, dramatics, but I'm just like, that shouldn't be there. So yeah, like, Chim and Hen are, like, having to basically help this guy, and they had, like, no medical supplies because obviously they're behind this locked door, and it's just like, they have no surgeons around, and, like, so, like, Hen's like, oh, we're gonna have to do cardiac massage, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, naturally. And Hen and Chim are, like, all he has, and I'm just like, of course this is happening. Then Buck and Harry find out from Maddie that the hospital's on lockdown since there's, like, an active shooter in the hospital, and they find out that basically all the wings are cut off from each other, and, like, the gunman is in the ICU, and Buck tells Maddie that she needs to find him a way to get through the doors, and Maddie's like, only LAPD can release the doors. The building is cleared, and there's nothing she can do. And Josh is like, well, actually, there might be a way. And I'm just like, of course you know that.
I was like,
I like Josh coming in clutch.
Yeah. I mean, it completely does make sense why, like, only the police can do it, because obviously if that's the situation going on, the police are going to be the ones to, like, say, okay, it's secure, so we can, like, reverse it. But yeah, definitely in this situation, it was like, this is really bad.
Yeah, well, also, like, I'm thinking about so many things right now, and one of the things that's crossing my mind is, like, the Grey's Anatomy shooting episode. Granted, that was a really long time ago, but I'm just comparing it to this. And the way I'm thinking that they maybe shouldn't be, like, it's fine, it's TV, but, like, maybe they shouldn't be, like, just going against the hospital being locked down, because, they don't want people just wandering the hospital when there's a gunman on the loose.
Right.
Maybe not the wisest situation, because that's what happened in that case. Like, people were just wandering around the hospital like it's nothing. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason why they have these things in place, for sure.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll take it. And it's like, this guy finds Athena's room, but, like, luckily me and Robbie had already started, like, moving her. Meanwhile, Hen has basically like cut open this guy, and she's like trying to pump his heart with her hand to keep him alive, and it's just like, oh, yeah, we're going right in, okay. Meanwhile, Eddie's in that elevator and is like ripping off his shirt and trying to put pressure on the wound, and I'm just like, oh damn, so many things were happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
so many things are happening, and this man is just stuck in the elevator.
Poor Eddie.
With no medical supplies other than what he's got on. I was like, oh, God,
no way,
really?
No way of calling for help.
Right, because the other guy took his phone.
Yeah. And it's like, and there's, I don't necessarily know what happens to the elevator when the hospital's on lockdown. I get you're not moving. I don't know. Yeah, then Harry and Buck are like, going on this adventure, I suppose you could call it. And Josh is just like, oh, in order to get the doors unlocked, they have to cut power the whole hospital. And Harry's like worried about like, killing everyone on life support. But Maddie's like, oh, well, there's a backup generator. It kicks on like almost immediately from the power being cut. They have to go down to the basement, and they have to go down to the ventilation room, and they have to basically, they have to do all that. And of course they get there and they're thinking, oh, there's gonna be stairs. There is no stairs whatsoever. And so like they find a way to get down there. And meanwhile, May and Robbie get Athena into, they find an operating suite with this ventilator that is so loud, like of course it's like that. And Buck and Harry get down in like the vent room thing, and I'm just like, okay, what's gonna happen?
Sure.
Hen has her hands inside this guy, and she's like, oh, she found a pulse. He has a pulse now. And it was nice seeing Chim and Hen work together in like the medical sort of capacity. I know like they were just at like a convention or whatever last weekend after this, or no, it was before this aired. So it was a couple weekends ago. And somebody, I forget, there was something that was said, and it was Kenny and Aisha, and something was said, and Kenny said, or I think it was mentioning like missing like the medical or the medics with Chim and Hen. And Kenny said something, and he goes, never mind, that's gonna spoil something. And I saw this, I think this was posted like before this episode dropped, like a couple hours before, I want to say, or at some point that day. And I literally, and I think a lot of people, when they saw him say that, say, no, that's gonna spoil something, went into a panic, because I was just like, what does that mean? Does this mean we're not gonna get this version, like Captain Chip? And I was just like, okay, now I understood what once I watched this, I understood that they had like a medical seat in the episode. I was like, okay, I could take this. But it was just like, what does that mean? But yeah, I did really enjoy that. And then Harry and Buck, they cut the power, and I love Chim's reaction of being like, now what's happening? And being like, what now? Like, what else could honestly go wrong? Like, I loved his, like, just raw reaction to that. And then, like, the generator kicks on, and, like, Eddie is not doing good in this elevator, and I'm just like, okay, somebody needs to find this man now.
Well, and I love that, like, when the elevator went into emergency mode, like, it had a big E on it, so it was like a big neon E to everybody that like,
it's like, Eddie, here. Eddie, hello, Eddie.
Right.
And actually, I think out of the whole of all of this episode, the fact that he lived is the most unrealistic part.
Literally. And
that's what I said about it, obviously.
Right. And it's just like, this dude obviously hears the vent because it's so loud, and he tells them that like they have nowhere else to go. And so they turn it on. And like SWAT is just getting in there. And this guy is going to like, hurt May or Robbie, or possibly both. So like, and like he sees Robbie too. And so May's like yelling no. And then I loved Harry coming out of nowhere and basically hitting him with the crash cart. and then getting the gun and telling him to stop and get back. And I love Buck coming up with SWAT, telling them Harry is with him. It's the other guy. The other guy's your guy. And I was just like, literally perfect timing. I didn't know we were gonna go from here. And obviously May's able to plug back in the vent, and Harry's able to go in. And Buck's like, oh, her pulse is strong. And Athena's also having like this coma dream where she says to McCluskey, like, you're leaving? And he says she has a family and a job to get back to. And she has built a beautiful life for herself. And he tells her that he is proud of her. And she asks if he ever thought about quitting. He was on the beat for so long. And he says, sure, but sometimes we die first. I was just like, oh. That hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And Athena says how nothing changes. She feels like a hamster on a wheel. And Athena wonders if that is a sign. And he tells her if she is tired of the view, maybe she should get out of the damn car. And I love that line. That was such a good line. I was like, oh, I understand that sentiment so much. Just being a hamster on the wheel. I feel like that sometimes, like a lot. I think my thing is I'm always like, it's like the same, almost the same thing every week. And I call it the circle of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's time to get on a different wheel.
Right?
That is true. That is true. That was so, I appreciate that moment so much, for sure. And the surgeon gets to the guy that Hen and Chim had been working on, and they find out that they got the gunman, and they ask if there were any more victims, and they say no. And I'm just like, and I was
at this point, you're just like checking the watch, or like, guys, come on.
Right.
Literally, I'm just like, what is gonna, like, you realize how much time you have left, and I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? And so I was totally expecting when they bring this guy in the elevator, for the elevator open up and Eddie just be lying there. But no, it was just like, oh, you thought it was gonna be that easy? No, we're not gonna do that. Of course not. That's just silly. But that, in my brain, I was just like, okay. And they also find out that their daughter is okay and they'll be able to see her soon, and the mom's like thanking them. She says she has never seen teamwork like that in her life, and I'm just like, I did miss Ken and Chim in this capacity.
Right.
And it's just like everything is like too good, because May is coming up running to Hen, and Chim's there saying how she's alive, and everyone is there, and they're all like hugging, and it's like, guys, are we missing somebody?
Literally, I was here like, has anyone, I know everyone's been busy, but has anyone at any point gone, where is Eddie?
It's like the parents with like the 6 kids, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
Wait, where's 6?
Where's number 6?
It's like, give this to Kevin. Kevin's not here.
Exactly.
It's up here. It's
literally. And for
Eddie.
Yeah, for sure. And it was funny when I'm watching this, and I have a clip of this too, of course I do. But it's just like, oh, are we missing somebody? And then for a brief second, I was like, what are they gonna be like, season 10? I was like, they wouldn't do that, but in my brain, I was just like, wait, they're just forgetting. And Buck is always the one to call it out, and I love him for it, because Buck is like, "Where's Eddie?"
You could tell his tall ass self was just getting like a head count while he was up there, being like, "Oh, a bit okay, we're missing."
Right.
He had to be the responsible one. It's kind of, it's funny when Buck has to be the responsible one in the group, be like, "We were missing somebody. This just doesn't seem right." So it's like, I get everyone was preoccupied, but I'm just like, yeah, Eddie. And of course, naturally, elevator dings, and we see Eddie lying there passed out with all this blood over him. But it was like not as dramatic. They made it so casual, and I'm just like, guys, this is just like, you know what? I don't need any more trauma, so like, we're gonna just take it where we have it, I guess. And you know, it's just like, he's like, wait, what? And Jim is like, Eddie! And runs over to him, as does Hen, and everyone's kind of standing behind, or at least Buck is. And they're like asking him if he's okay. And it's just like, no, he's not okay.
To get a response. I know that was simply doing Alpha, But like, maybe start asking what happened, like to gauge his verbal response, not if you're okay. Sorry, I thought that the second I saw it, I was like, this is when you ask what happened, not how they are, because you can clearly see they're not okay.
Right? And then they like are shaking him to wake up, and he's so casually be like, "Hey guys," and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" And Chim yells to get another gurney over here, and this next scene, I just, oh my god, I love this. Eddie and Buck are like in his hospital room. A nurse puts a tray down of food, and Eddie's like 3 days. He says he can't do this for 3 days. And he says this is ridiculous and that he is fine. And Buck is like, you were stabbed in the gut. And he's like, not that deep.
Leave it to Eddie to be like that.
Oh my god, that is so him. And I'm just like these men trying to downplay their traumas.
It's a flesh wound.
Yeah, because Buck did this too. After his, and it was like funny seeing people put the two scenes together, them both downplaying, their traumas, and I'm just like, guys, no.
Right.
And I love Buck saying, yeah, the elevator looked like one from The Shining, and then Peppa shows up with Chris, and Eddie wonders,
Peppa!
yeah, literally,
seeing her.
And Eddie's like wondering like what they're doing here, and Peppa said that Chris couldn't wait till like the morning, and she didn't want to risk him finding another way to get here on his
Did we all
own.
think of Chris getting the Uber to go to Bucks at that point? Because we all know he would have.
For sure.
I did, and I was just like, that now it's more plausible, I guess, but like at the time I was just like, yeah, legally that wouldn't even be able to
legally
happen.
how would we get here, because no one's driving a child that looks that young.
You legally can't. Like, parents try to send their kids in like Ubers all the time, and they strictly have a policy where you can't, like, your kids can't ride in Ubers at that age.
There is like an Uber teen now. I don't know how it works, but like at the time that this came out, I don't think it was a thing. So
right. Yeah, you have to be. It's like, I think you kind of, if you're, I know if you're under, let's say like maybe like 14, I know you specifically can't, because people will try to send their like elementary school age kids, and I'm just like, I would be worried. Like, it's just like, why are people just so handing their children to like random strangers to transport them to places? Because that's concerning with the things that happen.
Yeah, I've actually been doing some of that kind of stuff, and I've been delivering food, but I'm also working on getting through Uber. And yeah, there is kind of a teen, and it has something to do with it. It's connected to the parents' account, so the parents can like supervise the process, like the kids being dropped off, picked up, and all that stuff. So there's like more involved to it. But yeah, I don't think Chris would have the ability, or I don't know. Yeah, first thing I thought of is when he took the ride to Bucks. I don't know who willingly accepted Chris being picked up at the house, but it's TV.
Yeah,
it's TV.
I'm just like, I love comparing to reality, because I'm like, reality, this is illegal and would never happen. And if it did happen, this person would totally get banned from the platform.
Yeah.
But like, since it's TV, I will ignore it. I will call it out, but I will ignore it a little bit. Yeah, so, Chris is there, and like, Eddie is like, oh, well, it's going to be a short visit. Like, I don't want you staying at the hospital like all night. And I love like the little conversation that Peppa and Buck had too, because she says she never worries about him going into a fire, but it's everywhere else that she worries. And Buck is like, yeah, sure. And Peppa asks how like Athena is. Buck says how she's gonna pull through, she's resting. And Peppa says if they keep these two apart, they will lose. And Buck's like, yeah, he knows. We all know. And so Hooks ends up showing up at Athena's hospital room. And before this, we even see him swipe a syringe. And I'm like, so many things. I'm like, these things, I get it's dramatics, but these things should not just be like right there in the open where anybody could just like swipe it. But well, you know what? We're just gonna ignore that for a second. And he's like, telling Williams, who is basically like sitting outside Athena's hospital room, oh, like you can go take a break and like shut your legs and like takes him up on it. And then Hooks sits there for a second, but then he goes in her room, closes the blinds, and then he attempts to inject her with whatever he was going to do.
Air.
Athena, I was like, well,
It wasn't a liquid. He literally pulled the syringe and was going to inject it, because if you put air into an IV, it can give you an air embolism and it can kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That does track. But even so, I'm just like, watching at the moment, I'm like, okay, what is he going to try and do?
All right.
So, but he doesn't, because she grabs his wrist and basically is able to grab it. And she's like telling him, oh, well, that would be a bad idea. And I love how like Maynard and like SWAT are like right outside, or just like there. And they're like yelling hands, and like she tells SWAT to take that into evidence, and they arrest Hooks. And I'm just like, I love this. And Hooks wonders how long she had been awake, and Athena says, oh, she's an early riser. And they basically get him out of there. And I love how Maynard says, it's good to have you back. And Athena's like, when I get out of here, we need to have a long talk. And Maynard is like, why do I have a feeling I'm not going to like this conversation? And Athena says, she is considering a change of pace. And I'm just like, I'm very intrigued in this moment.
Taken 9 seasons. I cannot remember how many times, but it has come up several times about her like doing something different,
or retiring, or whatever. So at like this point, I had a strong intuition of what was probably going to happen, but honestly, I was like, so many things were happening in like these last 20 minutes that I was honestly just like not really thinking too much about it. I was just like, okay, well, something's going to happen, and I'm not sure the direction they're going to go in, but it's going to be interesting either way.
Right.
And then we go to Baby Nash's birthday.
Can't believe he's 1.
I know. The one thing I found so funny is that with the behind the scenes stuff, we saw that basically Baby Nash was a doll.
Yep. But we also barely saw Baby Nash as it was. Like,
it was just so funny, because I was just like, yeah, like something was very weird about it, but I didn't really honestly care. I was just like, yep. It was like,
I was like, it's about time they remember there's another child.
Right. And she's getting so big too. Oh my gosh.
She's so big.
Yeah, and it's like, maybe they just like don't want to put that much effort in it because they know they're gonna have to age him up at some point anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe. And she was a bigger storyline with like Maddie's postpartum depression, and like she was also the first baby of the show, really, because we had like the other kids, but she was the first baby of the show. Right. So I know, because I remember thinking, like, oh, we really aren't seeing much of Baby Nash. I'm like, what's all that about? But like thinking about it, I'm like, they're making less storylines out of him than they made with like, not necessarily about G herself, but G's involvement.
Yeah.
G's existence. So I don't know. I am hoping season 10 will bring some more about Baby Nash, but they might wait a little bit until they get some directors.
Yeah, for sure. And like we see Sue show up, and like she seems like a lot better. And I love how at the birthday party, May and Robbie are talking about what they got him as a gift, and Robbie is very sensible because he says he basically got him a bot. And I'm like, of course you did, Mr. Landlord.
Mr. Real Estate.
Yes, that was also crossing my brain. But yeah, so I'm just like, of course he did. And like Robbie even says, like, what does a baby need? Half of these are probably Lego sets for a child that can't even play with
right?
He's 1.
He can play them up until he's 99, but he cannot play them yet.
Yeah, literally. Right. And I love how Robbie got May a gift because it's gonna be like her first day with her new gig, as he put it. And it sucks, and she's confused. She's like, you got me socks, and Robbie's like, oh, they're compression socks. And I'm just like, I love him. Like, we see her start nursing school, which is pretty cool. I'm really excited to see that storyline in season 10. Like, the setup for the things they're setting up, really good, and I really loved it. And we saw Gabby at the party as well, and she's like talking to Eddie, and like we find out more about the migrants and how they were granted asylum in exchange for their testimony. Or at least most of them were. They couldn't place Esteban, and he's like, "Oh, well, he was like the star witness, and like he's harder to place because it's easier for like women and children." And like Gabby's like, "Well, I won't give up on it. Like I'll look around, and like, but if you have any ideas, like you can tell me." And so then you can see that he was like, well, actually. And so then we see like the scene with like Eddie and Esteban, and he is apparently going to El Paso, and he's going to stay with Eddie's parents. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was just like, yeah. And Eddie's like saying how his dad will help Esteban like get a job, work on his degree, and like build a life. And I thought that was pretty cool that Eddie like thought of this and that this is happening. And Esteban is like so thankful, and he's like, "Oh, don't thank me quite yet. My parents can be intense, but they're good people." And Esteban is like, "Oh, I don't doubt it. I've met their son." Loved that so much.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I love
Yeah.
like Mara like keeps asking apparently to see Athena's badge because she wants to show like all her friends or whatever. And so we finally see that Athena is now a detective.
Whoop,
And
whoop.
I love her
Yay!
so much.
This is so good.
And I love also Buck getting Harry and himself a craft soda, and Harry makes a comment how it's weird how everyone here is either a kid or has a kid. Uh, which I was just like, okay. I didn't think about it much in the moment, but I was like, okay, where are they going with this?
Right.
Because that was obviously like a lead-in, which I'm not mad about.
Mhm.
But Buck is like signing papers, and Deidre's there, and she's like telling him, "Oh, you're gonna hear a lot from me." And so basically, Theo is coming home to live with Buck, and Theo's just like standing there looking out at the backyard, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna live here now." And Buck's like, "Yeah," and tells Theo, "Welcome home." And
It
I'm
was
like,
so cute.
it was so cute. And I didn't, when this was brought up last episode, obviously, like his parents dying, I didn't know how to feel about it. But seeing this scene, I'm like, I'm actually really interested for this in season 10.
I think I'm still a hard sell on it. Like the scene was cute, but I think bringing another kid in and having Buck be a full-time parental figure, I don't know. There's just something about me that is having trouble both picturing them actually committing to this.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know. I'm not sold on it, but I'm not against it either. I'm just interested to see where we're going in season 10.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's my thing too, is I'm really, I don't know, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it in season 10. It's gonna be so interesting because I don't know how they're gonna go about it. And I really hope they don't do what some shows do where they get you like real attached to it, and then it's just like, "Oh, never mind, this is gonna happen." And I'm just like,
They're like, oh, he has a long lost grandmother.
Commit to it.
Yeah, that's why that's the whole thing is I just don't see it being long term. And maybe I'll be wrong. We'll see when season 10 comes around. Like I'll have more of a feel for it. We'll all have more of a
Right.
feel for it.
Yeah.
But like right now I'm like I don't see it being long term. I feel like that's a major shift. Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
But
Because that's like
I have so many feelings on it because it's just like after 9 seasons, it kind of makes sense we would go here. But also, I'm like, I have such mixed feelings, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just my hope for season 10.
I am actually feeling I don't know about you guys, but I am actually feeling really hopeful about season 10.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited. Like Athena, and I think no matter what happens, Athena and Buck and May, they all have like very interesting storylines that I think we're going into season 10 with. I think a lot of people had been wanting, especially for Athena, wanting the detective storyline to be like legitimate thing. And I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to now bring back like Rick, like
Mhm.
and like all these people
His
she's worked about
detective.
before. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think
Or even like I'm mentioning Lou again. Like
I
Oh
know.
yeah.
It's been so long. Like literally the last time we saw him was literally when Denny went back to the house that he was brought to when he was kidnapped
mhm.
and like he fell and like broke his arm or whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure that was the last time we saw him. That was of
Yeah.
course after all that stuff happened with Jeffrey. And I was just like, that's the last time we saw him. So I had been wondering for literal seasons
Yeah.
like, whatever happened to him?
Like, did he retire after all that? Like, devastating and stuff? Or did he, like, I don't know. I've been wondering too.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting transition, and this was the last scene of the episode, so we can all kind of talk about our final thoughts. But with the Bucks specifically, it's going to be interesting to see where they take it. I'm hesitant, but I know that it's not uncommon for friends to step up when their friends' kids need them. So, like, even though we didn't see Connor and Cameron in the series that much, it was kind of portrayed as Buck had been a really good friend of Connor's. So I could see possibly there being something much like maybe what Eddie did, but maybe not that they wanted Buck in his life or something. And I don't know. I don't know if this is a permanent thing. But we also have had the last few seasons, Buck has brought things up like, kind of wishing or wondering what his next thing is going to be, where he goes from there, and what his future looks like right now because he just can't seem to keep a relationship. So I'm interested to see where they do end up taking this storyline with Theo. But the kid is adorable. The twins are. They've got to play him. Oh, they're so cute.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have to say, this is probably my favorite finale that they've done in a long time. I really liked it because they didn't like overdo it. Sometimes they'll like bring in like an end of the season emergency, and after having an opener emergency, sometimes it's a bit overkill.
Yeah.
Where, yes, like a lot of things happened in this episode, and I kind of like episodes that are like one central thing. So they were basically in the hospital for pretty much the whole episode, and I like things like that. Yes, we didn't really get much, or we didn't really get to understand like some of the things that kind of led to like the Nikolai and whatever, but also honestly, I didn't really care enough to know the details.
Right.
Know enough, but all in all, I really liked it. It was kind of one of my favorite finales that we've had in a while. I think the setup for next season is going to be really good. And I knew they weren't going to do like they weren't going to do any cliffhangers just because I feel like shows are kind of, I'm not to say shows aren't doing them because I've watched shows that have done them, but I feel like they're kind of shying away from it a little bit. But I think 9-1 just in general does a really good job with setup for the next season, which I honestly prefer more. But it was a really like good episode, and there's not a lot of times where I'm thinking about things and I'm like thinking of new things where I feel like this is the first finale that's like making me really think about season 10 and what I would want to see or what I think would happen.
Right.
So it was a good one.
Yeah, I really liked it. I like what this season I think overall has done, and that is just pushing forward characters. Like we have had a lot of transition in the season at the end of last season. And obviously a lot of it, not all of it, was prompted by losing Bobby, and that is still very unfortunate. But we finally have Athena moving forward in her career, which I have always respected that she said no those many times, because you don't need to do a damn thing on anyone else's timeline, and you can hire as a beat cop if you wanna. But she was always doing good in detective scenarios. So it always felt like it was just a matter of time, and I'm glad that they have finally bitten the bullet, so to speak. And I always love watching Buck be like a big brother to Harry. I love how much we've been getting that. So I'm looking forward to that next season as well. Yeah. As far as the whole Theo thing goes, we'll see. We'll see. It's not something I hate, but it's I don't know. I just don't. I think I have very conflicting feelings on it at the moment. That was probably the thing of the whole episode I had the least reaction to, or at least like thoughts about, is simply because I don't really know what to think.
I know. I was
But
surprised with myself with it because I was so like against it in the last episode. And I was like, "Oh, they won't go there." And then they went there and I was like, "Oh, okay. So we are going here. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens, I guess."
yeah, like I would say I'm still sort of against it. But I'm not the against it that I'm gonna like say, oh, I hate this, like they better fix it. I'm not it'll be how it'll be. Again, I don't see it being long term, but I'm going to see what we literally got like a minute scene, if that. So we'll see what happens in season 10, and I could very well change my mind. We'll see. But I will say I do like that they are trying to move Buck's storyline along further, even if I don't love how they're doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's also sort of been, and there have been times where I feel like he's been at a standstill. Like,
Yeah.
because they've moved a lot of other characters further, but I feel like he's one of the ones that has sort of been at a standstill. And I feel like almost it's partially because they don't know what to do with him.
They don't. I think as far as love life goes, they've sort of backed themselves into some corners. And they've gotten themselves out of those corners, sometimes in bad ways, or like kind of nonsensical, shitty ways. I'm not even just talking about Tommy or about like Taylor, or I'm like the significant ones. Like they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they want. And I think part of my feelings on that is I feel like they're trying to patch over the like love life sized hole in his life with a child. And I think that's why part of why I have some issues with it. Again, we'll see how it goes. But it's like I love how we have watched him mature, because I really feel like we have watched him mature over the last couple seasons, and that doesn't require major steps. So I love how we've seen that he has his own place, so we've gotten that. But in many ways, he has been very stagnant. So
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, we'll do something with that, I guess. I will say it was lovely watching Chim and Hen work again.
Yeah.
Work together again. I've been loving watching the Hen and Eddie team, but it's nice to have Chim and Hen work together for old time's sake.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if they brought that in like very naturally and very like not super often, but a little bit. Because I absolutely do not want anybody else to be captain other than Chim. I really like where we're going with that storyline and stuff, and I'm just like, it literally pains me. Like when there was like the hypothetical, it was just like everyone thinking that it meant that Chim was gonna be captain. I literally pained me in my chest. I was like, no, don't tell me we're gonna get somebody random. No, 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 no. So I'm glad.
If I can say one thing for season 9, like above all else, and listen, I am set in my ways. I am always someone who is set in my ways. When I get my mind on something, I am pretty firm on it. I try to be open-minded, but I get myself set. Biggest thing I can say for season 9 is it won me over on Chim being captain, because I was fully in the Hen should be captain camp. And while I still think that would have been a great option if they had gone with it, I actually am like, okay, I'm good with this. Like, I'm good with this. I like it. I love the development we have seen in Chim this season, because I feel like he had been stagnant for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like, yay, we've gotten that. So we love that. And one of the other things I want to say for this episode was I loved how much Ravi we got.
Yes.
We got so much Ravi. We got Ravi and
setup. We're so
please.
Like,
this could be a
setup. Ravi Begins for season 10. Okay, it's season 10. We need another Begin.
Manifest.
It needs to happen. And it's just
because we have not had one since, if we count Josh's, I think season 5.
Yeah.
But we've not had a proper one since season 4.
Right.
We need it. But I loved Ravi's role in this. I loved watching Ravi and May together in this. They're They're so cute. I was not expecting to come around so quickly to them as a couple. I liked them in general. But now I'm like, oh, we have May and Robbie, we have May and Robbie.
They soft launched so well.
Right? They did.
They did. So we love that. So that was my main other. I feel like I had something else, but I'll remember it or not. It doesn't matter. I will shut up now and let EJ talk.
Yeah, no. Episode wise, this was really good. Like every twist and turn was really good. I did like that they were all in the hospital and there wasn't a lot of extra like outside stuff going on. So even though there were multiple things going on, it was all within the hospital. So you kind of had like, oh, well, what's so and so doing? And then you see the scene with like Buck and Harry had gone, instead of going to the vending machines, technically they went up to the roof, and to just all those little different things. And I loved seeing, like Buck still kind of taking Harry under his wing, and just knowing, because that's what Bobby did for Buck. And so this is kind of like paying it forward to, Bobby's, son. And, yeah, the scene, like I loved seeing that Eddie did go to the chapel, and there was that, in there where he was just praying for Athena. And, we've seen it, like he went to church with his abuela. We saw different things, him questioning his faith at different times. So to actually have him act it out, like when he's really in a situation, was good. I'm glad we've got a resolution on the storyline with the whole like dirty cop, because that's what he was. And like I didn't like the guy from the start. Like there was something fishy about him, but nobody could really put their finger on. Yeah, we're all like, oh, something's up with him. Second. And yeah, so we were all kind of like, yeah. And I love that. Like I also loved seeing, like, even through the season, how Eddie seemed to have a larger role in the episodes. And like this whole Hen and Eddie storyline with the migrants, and that storyline, stepping up with Esteban and him. It seemed like him and Esteban got to be really close, so that was really cool to see that. And then I think
that's what I had wanted to say was talking about the migrants and how happy I was with how the storyline went. Eventually.
Right. And then, and I love the little montage at the end with like, as they're at the party talking, then all of a sudden then we get to see a clip of them like at work or doing what they're thing. Like even the little clip of May on her rotation at the hospital with her other classmates.
They do such good montages. Yeah. Yes, and May's. I forgot about May's, but loved seeing that.
Well, I think all of us, even like all the fandom, have kind of been like, have this big question mark over our head. Like, what is she going to do? Like, we've seen her do X, we've seen her do Y, we've seen her do Z. Now what? Like, what is she going to do? But this season, I think, was definitely a defining moment for her, and I think this was a good step for her. So we'll see where that goes in the next season. It did sound like she was in an accelerated course, so like this first year, the 12 months that she's going to be in the program. So I don't know if there'll be a big time jump in between seasons like we have had in the past in some aspect. If not, we may come back and she may have only been in the program a few months, or we may come back and she's already done with it. I don't know.
I definitely think we'll see her going through the program, because like she already has like 4-year degree. You have a 4-year degree, quite literally some things you can just go back to school for a year and then get that whatever that other degree you need is.
Tends to depend what you went to school for in your 4-year, but a lot of times you'll have knocked out those like super general courses.
Yeah.
For
most things you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you knocked out enough like math and science related stuff, that will help get you into a medical field, because those are super heavy on those.
Yeah. And there's like LPN, CNAs, then there's nursing assistants. Like there's all these different statuses like you can get. I mean, yes, like a nurse practitioner, you have to go back to school for more. And then obviously doctor has their own like stages of education. Right. So yeah. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that kind of through the next season. I'm glad we got Athena finally making this decision for herself and not everybody else saying, hey, don't you think? It's this time it's her making the decision, because
we've been talking about promotion since like season 2.
Yeah. From being a lieutenant to captain to, being a detective. So I'm really glad that she's moving in that direction on her own. And I think even though she has been a beat cop for a long time, her experience is really going to help being a detective even better for her. Plus, I think it's time that, with losing Bobby on the job, having 2 adult children who need their mom, I think this was a good time for her to do it. And then Buck and Theo, I'm not against it. I'm like, I'm curious what they're planning on doing. Because what I don't want is them to build it up and then rip it out of Buck's hands and like hurt him
That's
because
what I
of it.
mean.
I'm like, I don't want him to be hurt in the end because of it, whatever the decision ends up being. And I don't know like how exactly, but usually like through adoption programs and stuff, oftentimes like they ask and talk to the parents about like, do you guys have a living will? Have you made one? Have you made decisions on what's going to happen with your children? So I'm sure a similar conversation was probably had with Connor and Cameron. So I'm sure they have a will of some kind, but what that stated, is to be, and CPS, or I can't remember exactly the title that Deidre had, but with her being involved, she's probably a state caseworker. More than likely, even if Buck had been listed in the will, they would still be involved because they would want to make sure that the child is in a proper environment, regardless of what the parents wanted. At least until they're for sure, like, this is all true, and there's probably going to be DNA tests and things like that the Buck's going to have to do to even verify, like, his status with the child. So yeah, just a lot of question marks. And yeah, I really like this episode. The Ravi and May scene, like walking down the hallway and like trying to keep an eye on her O2 stats. I don't know why they didn't just attach the manual bulby thing that's usually hanging by the ventilator. But I'm like, yeah, this is just for show. I'm like, okay,
trust me, the entire time I was just going, hi, so you have a BVM, you can bag her.
Yeah.
Your basic EMT, you can bag her. It wouldn't have been, well, it would have been work, and it would have been commitment.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been entirely soundless, but like, it would have been far quieter than the ventilator. So,
yeah.
It seems so complicated because they're also trying to push her around.
Yeah. I was largely thinking when they had to shut the ventilator off.
Oh, because yeah, like, for sure. I'm totally thinking of a different thing. In that case, I do agree with that.
Yeah, when you're moving, like, the only thing was, like, if one of them had been able to move on their own, and other person bagged, because that is something that happens, but it requires skill. And probably the stronger person out of the two was probably Ravi, and he's one that's trained to do that. But he's also the one that can probably more easily move the bed. So. Right.
So aside from a few nitpicky things, I love that Chris showed up and we saw Peppa and Chris and Eddie and the little interaction that Chris and Eddie had with the whole like Jello or whatever. And then Eddie's like, 3 days of hospital food. No, I can't do it. Like trying to push his food away. That was good. And the little bit of banter between Buck was good. So all around, like seeing Chim and Hen work together again was awesome. So like this was a solid episode and a great season finale. And it's making me look forward to season 10. You know how sometimes season finales can like give you a sense of dread, almost like, I don't know if I want to watch the next season or things like that. So to just feel like excited for it is a good feeling.
Yeah, they amped us up for sure. And sure. I did hear that basically there was supposed to be a scene at Baby Nash's party, basically a reconciliation with Sue and Josh, but that scene was cut out. And I'm like, yeah, this is the reason why there should be deleted scenes. Just saying. Which I feel like if they cut it out, they could, of course, incorporate it maybe season 10. Although I feel like enough time's gonna pass where you're just like, it's not necessarily a necessary scene, but I would, of course, like to see it.
Yeah. And, I didn't really say it, but overall, I'm really surprised at how the season started and where we got to. A lot has happened in this last season and good things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to where season 10 takes us.
For a season that started out in space, and we were all going, what the fuck are they doing?
Right?
I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. Yeah, why are we? Yeah. And honestly, I'm still surprised I enjoyed that emergency as much as I did. I think we all are surprised.
Yeah.
And that took 4 episodes, right?
Yeah, I really hope we don't do that next season. Like,
oh no, it was guys, so much.
Can we I had been thinking this, and I'm sure I'll elaborate this more when we possibly talk about like season 10 wish lists, but I will just say very quickly right now that I think it would be cool if they led into a not necessarily an emergency, but maybe like Athena has a big case or something like that. I think that would be like I feel like we need to move away from these large scale emergencies because like we're 10 seasons in. How many other emergencies can you basically pull out of thin air?
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Mhm.
like, don't get me wrong, I still get excited for those, like to an extent, but I feel like we're kind of growing too old of a show for it, I guess is a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just excited for season 10.
Well, good season.
Mhm.
And I can't. We're up to what 178 now.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm loving
We've
it.
been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
I know. And it's like,
I don't know if I have the time to listen back, but I almost want to listen to like what we used to talk about, like how, like what our thoughts were back then, like when we were, because initially when we started, we were really focused on Lone Star, and then we were like adding pieces in of 911, so we weren't really
yeah.
talking about it. So I'm like, I can't remember like what I would say like during Lone Star, like how much I like compared it to 911 in some ways, and I was like, did I ever like, I don't want to say diss on, but that's like maybe like about 911 over like liking Lone Star better. I don't know. Kind of the way we're doing with like Nashville, how we're like not liking Nashville as much as we are
It
liking
was,
911. So I'm like,
yeah.
I'd be curious to see like what even if our own thoughts have changed over the years.
Yeah, and like a lot of the episodes we didn't talk about them single-handedly. So if we ever had the time or whatever again, or like a big gaps of time, I would love to like dive more into like the older
Yeah.
episodes that we didn't like have like the time to talk about
Right.
like all singly.
Yeah, because we had several seasons when we started with Lone Star. We had season 1 of Lone Star, and then we had like 1, 2, 3, I think, and maybe 4 of 1, 2, and 3 we had to cover before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I know for me, for sure, my feelings on a lot of things have changed. And we've all grown as people and also as fandom participants. So I think it'd be very if I literally never listened back to the podcast because I have way too much secondhand embarrassment at myself. I cannot listen back. So I don't know that I could, but I know for sure I would say things different now. You know, we're 6 years into this almost. Like,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
when we started, I still thought I was straight. That's
Oh, a lot has changed. We've all had growth and development. I love it.
Yeah, for
I just
sure.
think about that. I'm like, wait, that's like literally the funniest benchmark I can use for when we
I know. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, a lot has changed. I feel like it's funny because people will, like, now that you have, podcast-wise, now that there's, like, the feature where people can comment on your episode, like, through Spotify or whatever, people comment, or, like, if they're watching the older episodes, and then they'll refer to things, and I love it, but, like, I have no idea what you're referring to, and I don't necessarily know that I want to, like, not that I don't want to listen to it to figure out what you're talking about, but listen, I am so sick of myself. I literally edit myself talking like all the freaking time, like pretty much every day. So I listen to myself
I hate
and
hearing my voice. It sounds so wrong on recording.
no, I totally understand. It's like I'm so desensitized to it, I think, for me personally, so like it doesn't bother me. But if you put me in a room with other people, like when people try to watch things that I'm saying, I feel like and like how actors say they can't watch themselves. I can't watch myself or hear myself speak in front of other people. Like I get such bad secondhand embarrassment, so I relate in that sense. 'Cause I'm like, please, if you're gonna watch that, you can totally watch it, but please do not be watching it in front of me, and especially like out loud. Like put headphones in because I'm just like, no, please, no, I can't. I can't take it. But I love the comments though. I did want to mention I love the comments when people watch the older episodes. But like I would love timestamps so at least I know what moment so I don't have to watch the whole episode.
Yeah, for sure.
It's my side. No, I love that.
No, that's so
random side
interesting.
note, though. And yeah, next week we'll be talking about the last 2 episodes of Nashville. That's gonna be interesting. I heard that's the first of the franchise to have a, I guess, cliffhanger on their debut season.
Oh, they're really trying to bring people back for next season.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do know what. I think I have a feeling of what the cliffhanger was, but that we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, so do I.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast and check us out on YouTube. For more, visit nowonlsroundup.com. Follow us on our socials at nowonlsroundup. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And of course, come join us on our Discord. The link is down below and on our website. You guys can follow me, Katie, at For the Love Turtles on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at Brendan Rathel 901 on Instagram and Threads.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.